Okay, um, everyone, can you see the questions here?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, right. Thank you so much. Just to introduce, for this tutorial's problem, if you look at the lections notes last week, we have 6 cases of calculations. Okay, and the last cases is some things that we haven't discussed. And I said I will discuss the last case in the tutorials this week. Okay, so if you read the questions carefully here, the informations provided on this slide are actually similar to case number 6 on the lecture notes. Yeah, let's discuss this problem. Consider a Malaysian want to deposit a sum of money. Decisions between two banks in the US and Malaysia. The current exchange rate is 415 cents. This is can I ask you guys this one, this quotation, this currency quotation, is this for a direct or indirect quotations? Can anyone tell me? Wait a minute. You can also type if you want. I just open the chat room here and see how many response. Okay. Yeah. Quite a number of you have responded. Direct. Okay. Some say indirect, some say direct, but most of you say direct. Yes, the correct answer is direct because it say how much local currency that you need in order to purchase $1. That is a direct quotation of currency exchange rate. Yeah. Okay. And three, bank deposit interest rate in Malaysia is 3% per year. Bank deposit interest in the United States is 2.5% per year. Assume a deposit of 10,000 is under consideration. Which currency will yield a higher return? Okay, perhaps I need to just copy this information to my whiteboard. Wait a minute. Snapshot. Okay. Wait a minute. Let me close this one. I'm gonna open the virtual whiteboard and I will copy and paste these informations to my whiteboard. Yeah. Just wait. All right. I'm showing my virtual whiteboard. If you can't see anything, please let me know. I assume you can see, yeah? Before I just proceed. Okay. Right. According to the 6 step, I don't know if you still remembers the 6 step we discussed on the lecture last week. Um, Perhaps I just copy and paste the lecture notes number 9 last week just to copy the 10 step to remind you what we discussed. Okay, and please give me seconds. Okay, before we proceed, I just show you the sixth step here. Um, we have your lecture notes, you can take it out. We have to do some revision, some quick revisions regarding this step. 5 steps, sorry, it's not 6 steps. Okay, in the first step, we determine the foreign deposit in local price. Okay, remember this one. The first step here means if we want to deposit our money in a foreign currency, we need to understand how much local currency that you need to pay in order to get a foreign currency. Once you get the foreign currency, you can deposit the foreign currency in a foreign bank account. Yeah. So this is the first step. We need to understand the current exchange rate, the local price of the foreign deposit, right? In this exercise, our exchange rate, the current exchange rate is 4 ringgit and 15 cent. If you look at the first bullet point on the left side, okay? And then number 2 determines the foreign deposit return. This means once you have the amount of foreign currency that you want to deposit in a foreign bank account, you need to understand how much interest rate that the foreign account offers you, because the interest rate is your return. We consider here is that we have an annual interest rate, not monthly or quarterly, or 2 months or 6 months. Yeah. Um, for example, if you look at the table here, when I'm pointing here, I don't know where is see what I point. Um, if 10,000 deposit is made, determines using the interest rate per year of the foreign currency, how much the deposit will be worth 1 year from now. Yeah, that means if you deposit in the first January of 2022, the interest rate, let's say, is 2.5%. As you can see, um, right here, we have point number 4 on the left side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bank deposit interest rate in the United States is 2.5%. Okay, this is what you're gonna earn if you deposit your monies in the foreign bank account. After 1 year, after the interest rate mature, you got the interest rate return. You can also consider depositing monies in Malaysia bank account, and the offer is 3% per year. 3% per year is what you will earn end of the year. Okay, after 1 year, once your interest rate mature. Okay, from these two offer here, the interest rate offers in Malaysia and the interest rate offers in the United States, we can see very clearly Malaysia's offer a higher interest rate, which is 3% per year, compared to 2.5% per year in the United States. From here, you might believe that Malaysia interest rate seems to be more interesting, seems to be more attractive because it's higher value, right? If you just make a decision by looking at the difference between these two interest rates, you're gonna make a wrong decision because you haven't considered the exchange rate that will happen between the two countries' currency. Yeah, right. Number 3, if we look at the box here, is the table. Number 3, convert the foreign deposit. If let me read for you here. If MYR is expected to appreciate against USD end of the year, convert the foreign deposit from step 2 to Malaysia's ringgit using the expected exchange rate. That means um, we need to do some expectation. Whether the currencies will appreciate or depreciate against each other end of the years of your investment, of your deposit. How do we make expectation? It's some things that we can base on different factors, right? For example, in the coming lecture topic, you will learn some things that how expectations can be made in order to understand where this currency will appreciate or depreciate against each others. Right. Number 4, calculate the expected rate of return. This is what we say the total money that we have end of the year compares to the initial amount of monies that we have at the beginning of the year before our investment. From the start of the investment and at the end of the investment, we compare our money, okay? And then we calculate the rate of return. And then from our calculations at 4 step, we can decide at the following step here, the decide deposit between home and foreign currency to see which one might offer a higher possible returns. Okay, right. I'm gonna remove this table. You can refer to your lecture notes if you don't have. I mean, if you don't have a printout, you can refer to maybe your computers in soft copies, right? But these are the steps that we're gonna follow. Yeah. Okay. Delete. Right. Maybe I can do something here just to I just feel want to add the table here. Okay, let me see if I can do this. Just drag this one up here. Okay, this one is not needed. And then let me try to copy a small portions of just the first column of the table. Okay, here's it. Okay. Right here, maybe I just, this one seems to be too big here. What should I do? Right, and I'm gonna remove this part so that we can refer at least the step here, the several step here. Okay, right, let's begin. We begin from the first step. We do some calculation. You can assume yourself as an economic consultant to help your clients to make decisions whether an investment in local currency is more beneficial or an investment in the foreign currencies. From this exercise, we apply the 5 step here. Number 1, determines the foreign deposit in local price. This is what I explained to you just now. We need to determine how much local currency that we need to pay in order to get the amount of foreign currency that we want. The foreign currency that we want to invest, according to the questions here, is 10,000. Yeah, 10,000. So how much local currency that we need to pay? Then we need to use the current exchange rate, which is 4 ringgit and 15 cent. From here, I just write here 10,000. Okay, and I times the exchange rate 4.15. Yeah, and from here, I get what answers do you have? Can anyone just type your answer? As this is a tutorial, I also hope for your participation. Not just I do everything and I say everything. 41500. Thank you. Okay. This is RM 41500. Okay. This is the amount of money in terms of local currencies that you need to pay in order to get the 10,000 US dollar. This is step number 1, right? Step number 2 determines the foreign deposit returns. The foreign deposit returns, here's we assumes that we have the monies to buy the 10,000 US dollar. Now we can open a bank account, or maybe we already have a bank account in the United States, and we want to deposit this amount of money, maybe in the fixed deposits or saving deposit in the bank account here. Okay. And we understand the deposit here in the United States will yield 2.5% of returns end of the year. This is an annual, yeah? Okay. Now, we just need to get the calculations here, but to provide your answer, you better understand the formulas to get the additional 2.5% of interest return. If you use your calculator, you just type 10,000 times 2.5% or add 2.5%, you immediately get the answer. But that is not what I actually want to see. I want you to give us to show us more details about your calculations here. Like you can put this one, maybe use this color, okay? 10,000, right? And you plus this 10,000 is called your principal, okay? Your principal money. Maybe I just write here. This is the principal amount plus the interest rate return, which is equals to 10,000 times 2.5%, like this. Okay, you got 250. Right, thank you for the information. Now, I just write here, down here, the principal of 10,000 this is 250. Thank you for the calculation. And overall you get, this is the amount you get, okay? Right, thank you. Don't wrongly write this currency unit as RM. If you write this as RM, you get it wrong, okay? This is US dollar. Okay. This is step number 2. The return is 10,250. Step number 3, converts the foreign deposit to local currency. Okay. From here, we need to use the expected exchange rate, which is 4 ringgit and 25 cents. Let me ask you some questions again. Right. This exchange rate 4.15 going to 4.25 RM US dollar. This is called an increase or decrease, this exchange rate. Do you call this exchange rate an increase or decrease? No, this is an increase. Yep, this is an increase, but this is a depreciation. The currency value here increases from 4 ringgit and 15 cent to 4 ringgit and 25 cent. This is an increase, but it also means you need to use more Malaysian ringgit to buy 1 US dollar. That means Malaysian ringgit depreciate against US dollar. Yeah, right. This is a depreciation. If you say depreciation, congratulations, you got that correct. Now, our expectation here is that the currency or the exchange rate will depreciate against US dollar, right? Let's see. We will use the calculated amount from step 2. I mean, this is your money end of the year, 10250. This is the money you have end of the year. Now you want to convert it back to ringgit Malaysia. I just times 4.25. Okay. What is the value you get here? Any calculation? Please share your answer. Thank you. 43562. 43562.50. Okay, right. Do you agree with this answer? Do you agree with this answer? RM. Thank you so much, Diana. Okay, this is not dollar. This is Malaysian's ringgit already. Okay. And then step number 4, we need to calculate the expected rate of return. This one, we will use the new amount. The new amount calculated from step 3, which is, I can just write you here, new minus O divided by O times 100. This is the formulas to calculate the rate of return. Okay. For example, if I plug this value inside here, M 4356.2.5 minus, okay, not enough space. We just take away this one. Yeah. Okay. Minus the initial amount is from step 1 is 41500. 41500. Okay. And then I need to divide this one by the old one. Okay. M 41500 times 100. Okay. What answers do you have? Can you calculate? Chat room here. Okay. Can you show your answer if you have calculated? 4.97%. Correct. Yeah. Okay. Be careful with this one. When you write, I see someone who write like 4.96 something, or maybe 7 if you use 2 decimal places, but you forgot something here, which is the percentage. This is important. Yeah. You don't, if you miss this percentage term, it will give a different meaning. Right. Um, this is the rate of return, the expected rate of return. Why do we call this expected rate of return? It is because the conversion from US dollars to Malaysian ringgit is based on expected exchange rate from this from here. Okay, this is an expected one. This is expected exchange rate, because we use an expected exchange rate at step 4, the answer you get is also expected. So we call it expected rate of return. Okay. Last step. This is what we understand from step 4. This is what we obtain. The return is 4.97%. And lastly, we need to decide whether to choose home deposit or foreign deposit. From the question in the statement here, our information is that Malaysia offered 3% per year of interest rate. Okay, 3% is, I'm gonna write here, it's just US, and maybe this is Malaysia. Okay, 4.97%. Malaysia offer 3%. 4.97, this is higher than 3%, right? And therefore, which one will you recommend? Will you recommend a deposit in US or Malaysia to this client? US, right. Thank you. Thank you for the response. Yep, the correct recommendation is the US because it offers a higher rate of return. But if you just look at the comparison of interest rate between the two countries, like these two, 3% and 2.5%, you're going to make a wrong recommendation because you haven't considered what will happen to the exchange rate. And from the beginnings, we already say this client, he is interested to make his deposit either in Malaysia or in the United States. We need to consider the possible exchange rate between the two currency in order to make a correct and accurate recommendations to this client. Right. Okay, so this is the solution for tutorial number 9. Um, Now, before I begin, just gonna tell you that I have revised your midterm. This is a special mentions here. Just wait a minute. Let me write something. Okay, I'm gonna write in this corner in case somebody's still jotting down the note here. So I'm not gonna delete the informations here, but I want to tell you some things about your midterm. Usually, I will check your midterms twice or even 3 times. For the last time, I shared discussions of answer to you. That time, I only check once. Yeah, that is the only check once. But after the discussion last week about your midterm, I have to perform another check of your midterm. That means your marks will be revised. But the good news is that most of you get additional marks. Only a few of you who I mistakenly pick a wrong mark for you, so you get a mark deduction for a little bit, just a little bit. But most of you get additional marks for the revision. I mean, for the second check. Yeah, I will show you your marks for every person on Smart 3 UMS. Um, maybe within this week or maybe next week. Okay, depends on my schedule. If I'm free, I will let you see your marks, everyone. If you're not satisfied or you're curious or something, you can just tell me what is the problem of your marking, your score. Okay. Um, from here, I just want to tell you the midterm and also for the final exam. The final exam, I will let you know the chapters that you need to do a revisions later. Um, But I also want to inform you here that just like the midterm, I will check your exam answer twice, even 3 times, meaning the first round checking, second round checking, and third round checking. So you don't have to worry about mistake. Yeah. Um, Another things to inform you here is mini project. A mini project, I have made an announcement and thank you, Safian. Safian has me ask everyone whether you are okay to do the oral presentation. I think it's 11th of January on Wednesday. Okay, that is the day I stay on Smart 3 MS. Please prepare your oral presentation and also you need to submit your the hard copy and soft copies of the mini project both. Yeah, soft copy you can submit online through Smart 3 UMS. For the hard copy, you can submit it on the day of your oral presentation, meaning um, after or before your oral presentation, you can submit the hard copies to me. That is your mini project and oral presentation. And don't forget, you also have a quiz The quiz is a 5%, but it is compulsory, meaning if you skip the quiz, you don't do the quiz, then you will fail the entire course. That is not the rule set by me, but this is a general rule of the faculty. Yeah. If you miss one component, you will get grade F for this course. Then you need to repeat again next time. Don't forget to do the quiz also to complete all components of assessment. Individual assignment, the last thing I want to mention here before we take a break. Individual assignments will be available very soon at, I think it's on the 29th this December. I will let you do the individual assignment, but I will also let you a lot of time, plenty of time to do the individual assignment. One of the problem, um, I think both problems are related to the Forex part one and part two. And therefore, you need to do some revision for the two parts and refers to the two parts and also the tutorial solutions here in order to solve the tutorial, I mean, the individual assignments problem. Um, I will give you a few days to complete the individual assignment, and you got to submit them in hard copy on the day of the lectures in the coming weeks. Yeah. Okay. I think that's it. That's all for my announcements here about your assessment. This is 10:37. Let's take a break. We continue after 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, everyone. We're gonna begin now. I hope your notes are ready. By the way, if you can't see the slide or you can't hear my voice, just let me know. Okay, please type something. Right. This is lectures number 10. Okay, this is week 10. Wait a minute, it doesn't move. My slide doesn't move. I don't know what happens here. Okay, right. Now this is Forex part 2, price level. Okay. Whenever we talk about price level, we can refer to an individual commodity or we can refer to a group of commodity. What I'm trying to tell you here is we can think of the price levels of um, book. What is the price of book? We can think of the price level for book for one commodity. Okay. In contrast, we can also look at um, commodity basket. Commodity basket. Doesn't matter book or commodity basket, we can have price level. We have the price level for book. We have the price level for commodity basket. But what does it mean by commodity basket here? Commodity basket means a variety of goods and services that people consume in a country. So this variety of products, including goods and services, they are within one basket. They are the products and services that people consume in a country. Okay, we call them commodity basket. And we should have a price index for this commodity baskets as well. Just like we have the price for book, we have the price index for commodity basket. Why index? Because this price index summarizes the prices of varieties of goods and services in the basket. Okay, this is a summary index, the price level, the general price level of this basket. Okay, price level or price index, it can changes. It can go up, can go down, something like this. We want to understand what is the implication of these changes in the forex market. I mean, foreign exchange market. Yeah. If you think about what has happened um, not long after COVID, I mean, the pandemic, Malaysia, for example, experienced inflation. I believe a lot of you also feel this burden, the cost burden, when inflation happened. Inflation, like this one, inflation from CPI increases, the consumer price index, because inflation rate is calculated from CPI, consumer price index. And consumer price index grow, that is summarized by, it is summarized as inflation rate. When inflation happen, have you also noticed that our currency value decreases? If you look at the exchange rate between Malaysia ringgit and US dollar, this happened to be 4 ringgit and 10 cent initially, but then it dropped until 4 ringgit and 60 cent. This is core. What do you call this? Appreciation or depreciation? Anyone? Yes, thank you so much. This is called depreciation. Now, this is something we realize in the past couple of years, even until now, okay, still experiencing inflation and depreciation. Hence, in this lecture, you can think about what is the relationship between inflation and currency depreciation or appreciation. At the end of the lecture, you can answer the question why inflation can cause currency value to drop, to depreciate against US dollar. I hope end of this lecture, everyone can answer this question. If there is someone from the banks or the central banks or financial institutions or any company asks you the question, I believe you can answer. Why inflation is followed by a decrease or a depreciation of currency value of your money. Okay, right. Let's begin. Remember the question. Okay, what is the relationship between inflation and currency depreciation or appreciation? I want you to answer this question. Okay, end of this lecture. Yeah, the highest cost of living. Which country has the highest cost of living? To measure cost of living, the best summary is the price index. The price index here is also known as CPI, Consumer Price Index. From Consumer Price Index, we can calculate the inflation rate. Okay? Inflation rate is usually expressed as percentage because it measures the growth of CPI, right? Um, let's see. These are the top 10, the top five. Sorry. Let me erase the right thing here so that you can see table clearly, right? This table, it show you the countries with very high cost of living. I summarize here the top five. Um, Although the data were obtained for 2019, but I think there are not much change and even increases for this country in terms of inflation. Venezuela. Venezuela, this country, by the way, can I know where is Venezuela? Which continent, which regions that Venezuela is located? Can anyone tell? South America. Thank you so much, Hafiz. Zimbabwe. Which country is this? Zimbabwe, Africa. Thank you, Hafiz. Argentina. Where is Argentina? Maybe someone do not know where is Argentina. Although this country recently become so popular because it won the World Cup. Which region that Argentina belongs? Anyone other than Hafiz? Maybe other can tell. Okay, Yoshiming, right? Thank you. South America also, like Venezuela. South Sudan. South Sudan. This country belongs to which region? Okay, wait a minute. Someone knocked my door. Okay, just wait a minute. Okay, let's resume. Which is this country again? Anyone answer? South Sudan? East Africa. Wow, so specific. Thank you, Samizan. This is from Africa. Okay, Iran. I believe everyone know this is one of the major countries, the big countries in Middle East. Okay, this is Iran, belongs to part of the Asia. Um, just to look at a little bit of comparisons right here. If you look at the Malaysian inflation rate, which is 3.8% in 2017. But recently, when I checked the data for 2021, I think the rate is about 2.5%. Okay. Now, if you compare this rate in Malaysia with those in the countries like Iran, South Sudan, Argentina, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, you can see that actually inflation rate in Malaysia is not bad. Even 3.8% is not bad. It's not bad in comparison with those other countries like Venezuela. You can see the number here is so big. You can imagine the growth. This is the growth rate of price level from one year to another. This is a very, very big value. When the price level is very high, the consequence is it will erode the purchasing power of your money, meaning your money become very weak in terms of purchasing goods and services. The money that people have is hardly able to buy goods and services that can satisfy their needs because the goods and services become so expensive in the country. Okay. However, for inflation, we need to understand that inflation cannot be too low. When inflation rate is too low, that means the price level in the country seems to be too low. Too low price level is not a conducive environment for business to grow because businesses like firms, the objective of firm is to maximize profit. Profit is the engine that drive the growth of business over the long time. I mean the long run. If the inflation rate is too low, that is not a very good environment for business to go. But inflation is too high is also a problem because it causes a very bad burden to people to live. The cost of living is very high, okay? Because the purchasing power of money becomes very weak. In other words, the higher the inflation rate, the weaker your money becomes because the purchasing power decreases. Okay, right? Reason why inflation rate increases. Usually, we go back to the concept of demand and supply. When demand is too high, supply is too low, then that will create a shortage of supply, meaning supply cannot meet demand. Just like the shortage of eggs, chicken eggs in certain countries, including Malaysia, that will drive up the price of chicken and chicken eggs. Yeah. And when, in general, for general products, when demand is unusually higher than supply, that will generate a gap that cannot be fulfilled. The consequence is the price will increase because demand is more than supply, right? According to our understanding of demand and supply, the price will increase. Other than other than that, we can also look at events such as political unease. Political unease is a situation when investors feel not confident in their investment. Okay, foreign investments will avoid investing in that country because there is political unease. Who want to invest in a country with political instability, right? Local investment will think about leaving the country for other countries because local investors also aim for profit. They aim for a better living. They will think about foreign direct investment, invest their monies in other countries instead of home country. Okay, that is the consequence of political unease. When this happened, foreign investment refused to come to the country and local investment decided to leave the country. The consequence is supply decreases. If you look at the graph here, our usual demand and supply curve, okay, right here, this is usually our demand curve, and this is our supply curve. Just now I said local investor leave the country, foreign investor refuse to come to the country due to political unease. The consequence is domestic supply decreases, supply shift to the left side. Okay, when supply shift to the left side, you can see here the price increases. The price increases here is the root of inflation rate increases. The general price level increases when supply decreases, then when supply decreases, then inflation rate um, increases over time. Right? This is how political instability can be translated into inflation in a country, just like Venezuela. Right, this is the quick info. Let's dive into our lecture lessons now. The first concept that I'm gonna introduce you here is the law of one price. The law of one price, by definition, it means same goods in two different countries have the same price when expressed in terms of the same currency under perfect competition. Right? You can consider this bicycle. This bicycle. Let's say we have two countries, USA, and here we have Malaysia. Okay, two countries. Let's say this bicycle is available. The price of this bicycle is equals to 1 unit, okay, of this bicycle is equals to $545. This is a price in the United States. In contrast, the price in Malaysia, we need to understand the conversion using exchange rate here. The exchange rate here is 4 ringgit and 15 cent for $1. We just need to convert this price using this exchange rate. We find the price in Malaysia, correct? Can anyone calculate? Let me know the answer here. Okay, very quick. Lam, thank you. Okay, 2261. 2261.75. Okay, thank you, Amy. Right. You see, the price 545 is the price of this bicycle in the United States, and the price in Malaysia is 2261.75 right here. So the price in Malaysia is the same as the price in the United States for this bicycle at this exchange rate. At this exchange rate. Okay? Meaning at this exchange rate, the bicycle is sold for the same price in the United States and Malaysia. We call this the law of one price. Okay, this is the law of one price. This concept is important because from this concept, we will develop and expand our understanding from exchange rate to interest rate and also inflation. Okay, so do not underestimate this concept, the law of one price. How does the law of one price come by? Then we need to understand the process and also why this is important. Why this is important to have the law of one price between two countries. Just now, we consider the example of tricycle at the price of 545 in the United States. But previously, our price in Malaysia is 2261 and the exchange rate is 4.15. In this explanation, we use a different exchange rate at 4.10 right here. Therefore, with this exchange rate, if the law of one price apply, then the price in the United States will be the same as the price in Malaysia at this exchange rate. If we convert this price 545 with this exchange rate, we get 2234.5. This is the price in Malaysia, meaning 2,234 ringgit and 50 cent. This is the price similar to $545 in the United States at this exchange rate. Before this exchange rate actually plays a very important role because it makes sure the law of one price apply. Okay. Now let's see that the second point here. If the bicycle is sold at 2261.75 in Malaysia, 2261.75, this price is higher. Okay, right here, 2261.75 is higher than 2234.5. A higher price in Malaysia rather than 2234.5, we found a higher price in Malaysia. That means in this situation, the law of one price is violated. The law of one price is violated. The consequence is there will be adjustment with the prices in the United States and Malaysia until the law of one price applies again. Let's see how this happens. With this higher price, higher than the price that is supposed to be charged under the law of one price, Malaysian importers would be encouraged to buy the bicycle from the United States and sell in Malaysia. Why not? Right? Because they can get a higher revenue by selling at a higher price, while US exporters would be encouraged to ship the bicycles to Malaysia because they can, again, sell a higher price in Malaysia compared to in the United States. People from US will ship bicycles to Malaysia, and Malaysian bicycle companies will import bicycle from the United States and sell in Malaysia because they can sell at a higher price. Yeah. The consequence is that the bicycle price will fall in Malaysia and will increase in the United States until there is a single price. Um, Maybe I can just write provide a graph again, the demand supply curve. Too small, maybe you can see it. This is our demand and demand curve, supply curve. Okay, now this is the demand supply market of bicycle in Malaysia. What happens is when people from the US want to sell bicycle in Malaysia for a higher price, and Malaysian bicycle company also want to sell bicycle, import bicycle from US and sell in Malaysia. That means the total supply of bicycle increases in Malaysia. Therefore, the supply curve will shift to the right side, right here. The consequence is here, the price, the price decreases in Malaysia. The price of bicycle decreases in Malaysia, as you can see in this table. Okay, this first column. Initially, the price is 2261.75. Over time, when supply keep increasing and increasing, that will drive down the price to 22458 until 2246.7. The opposite happens in the United States. In the United States, because supply decreases, meaning if this is for the United States, let me just plot here. This demand and supply for US. This is for Malaysia. Okay. B, C, this as C. When US is attracted to increase supply in Malaysia, the supply in US decreases. The consequence is the supply curve will shift to the left side. The consequence is the price increases in the US. This is what happens in the opposite way in the US. The price in Malaysia decreases while the price in US increases. You can see here in this column right here, the price in US increases from 545 to 546 until 548. At this price level right here, okay, at this price level, if you convert 548 using this exchange rate, 4.10, what is the values that you get? Can anyone do the calculation? You convert 548 using this exchange rate, what is the value you get? Five four eight times 4.10, you get anyone? 2246.8 or 7. Can you give me a more precise answer? I think the answer is supposed to be 2246.7, somewhere like that. Let me see if anyone get that answer. Wait a minute. Okay, I see a few calculation here. You got 2246.8, and I wrote here 2246.7. Let me see some more time. I use my calculator. It's not that I don't trust you, but I just want to see the decimal places. You Yeah, it's supposed to be 2246.8. Maybe I forgot to round up in my previous calculator. Yeah, this one is supposed to be at 8 right here. Okay. And at this rate, where yeah, don't worry about the exchange rate. Someone's okay. We are assuming this 4.10 as the exchange rate here, meaning that at this exchange rate, 4.10 at this exchange rate, the decrease in the price in the US, sorry, in the Malaysia, and the increase in the price in US will continue until they reach a level where the conversion is similar at this exchange rate, okay, which is 2246.8. At these two prices, 2246.8 and also 548, the price become the same again in Malaysia and US, right, at this exchange rate. And therefore, there is no more incentive for people um, to have the motivation, to have the attractions to ship bicycle from US to sell in Malaysia to gain extra profit again. That incentive is vanished already. Okay, vanished already at this exchange rate. Okay, what you need to remember here is that the price. Okay, thank you, Amy. Amy show me one calculation just now. shows me, yeah, this is what I curious about just now. Um, sorry, I wrongly looked at the previous answer. Sorry, that's okay. I guess the answer is 2246.8. I will correct it later for this one, right? It's supposed to be 8 to be more precise. Yeah, this is something you need to remember. The price in US will continues to increase and the price in Malaysia will continues to decrease until they become um, similar at this exchange rate 4.10. Okay, right. At this two price level, that means the law of one price applies again. Yeah, right. Now by equation, we can look at the law of one price in this way. If you look at equations, the first equations here, this equation, um, let me explain here that I, the, the subscript I, as I explained here, it can be a product denoted by subscript I. It can be any product, it can be bicycle, book, food, and other things. We just use I to indicate this is the product we are talking about. The law of one price implies that Malaysian's price of a product is similar in the US. Okay. For example, if you look at this equation, the price ringgit in ringgit for this product I is equals to the price in US dollar for this product I for the same product I. Okay, it can be the bicycle. When the price in US multiplied by the exchange rate between Malaysian ringgit and US dollar, right? Now, what is very interesting about this equation is if we look carefully, we can rearrange this um, equation for E, RM dollars, meaning maybe you find it hardest to read my words written on this brown area. What I'm trying to explain to you here is we can rearrange this equation to get this one. We solve this equation for the exchange rate, bring it relations to US dollar, and the result is the ratios of price in ringgit to the price in US dollars. Maybe I can just write one more time right here so that you can see clearly. This is the exchange rate, ringgit relations to dollar, equals to the price level in Malaysia for this product divided by the price level in US dollar for the same product. Okay, this is the exchange rate, which is equals to the price ratio Malaysia's to US dollars. Okay. Now, what is very interesting about this equation is we can actually expand the concept of law of one price by considering not just one product, but a basket of commodity. Just now, in the beginning of the lectures, I defined to you commodity basket. Commodity basket comprises a variety of products, goods, and services that the people in the country consume. And we have a price index to summarize the prices in the basket. In other words, the price index is the price level of that basket, just like consumer price index. Yeah. Um, let's see. This one I'm not gonna explain the third point here. I'm not gonna explain it. Just this is just some assumption, no transaction costs and no trade barriers, because we need to impose some assumption because otherwise we will have a difficult times to understand the foundations of the theory. Yeah, but when you have the opportunities to um, learn more about international economics, theories will begins to incorporate transaction costs and also trade barriers. Yeah. Now, purchasing power parity. This is the concept following the law of one price. Purchasing power, whenever we read this word purchasing power, we should understand this refers to the money value of our currency, or it also indicates the strength of our money. The strength of our money means how many goods and services that we can buy using the monies that we have, right? Just like we can consider coffee. Let's say this is coffee, okay? Coffee bottle. Um, coffee. Let's say you have 50 ringgit, and the price of coffee initially is about 6 ringgit and 90 cent, the middle size. With 50 ringgit, you can approximately buy how many bottles? Anyone? Seven. Okay, you got seven. Yeah, you got. You can get 7 bottles. This is the purchasing power of your money. Now, let's say the price of coffee now increases like what we experiencing at the moment. Previously, the price of coffee for this bottle is 6 ringgit 90 cent. Now they increased to 7 ringgit and 30 cent. How many bottles can you buy with this 50 ringgit? Six, I believe. Yeah, correct. I believe that with this new price, you got 6 bottles. Okay, you got 6 bottles only. This indicate that the purchasing power of 50 ringgit has decreased when inflation happens. The price of coffee increases from 6 ringgit and 90 cent to 7 ringgit and 30 cent. This is the impact of inflation. I mean, this is part of inflation. The inflation has eroded the purchasing power of your money. With 50 ringgit, previously you can buy 7 bottles. Now you can only get 6 bottles because the purchasing power of your money, 50 ringgit, has decreased. Okay, that is purchasing power. The definitions of purchasing power. Um, in international economics, we are not just looking at um, demand and supply for one or two commodity, but we look at the currency value here. The currency between US and Malaysia, Malaysian ringgit and US dollars. We want to compare the purchasing power between US dollar and Malaysian ringgit. Are they the same? If you can use 100 ringgit to buy 10 crore in Malaysia, can you use the same um, amount of money to buy the same amount of crore in the United States? Okay, if the purchasing power between two currency are the same, then we call it parity. Same purchasing power parity. The currency strength in terms of purchasing power between two currency are the same, right? Now, um, look at this point. Let notation I in equation 2 be a reference basket of commodities. From this equation, previously we denote I as a bicycle, for example, just one commodity. Now you can think of I as a commodity basket. Okay, this a reference basket here generally means if you learn macroeconomic, you should understand a reference basket of commodity means um, a basket or a group of products that represent the consumption by the people in the country. The basket here comprises or consists of a variety of goods and services that the people generally consume. Okay, so we also have a price for this commodity basket. Just like you are going to supermarket, you will carry a basket. Okay, and inside your basket, you put the products that you want to buy inside the basket. That is your basket. But what is the price of your basket? When you go to the cashier and you want to pay, you want to check out, the cashier will give you a bill. The bill will state, okay, this basket of goods, after calculated every elements in the basket, you will get the total price that you got to pay, maybe 61 ringgit, for example. Yeah, that is the price of the basket. Now we are talking about, we use the same concept to talk about um, a reference basket of a country, not just a basket you carry to the supermarket, but this is the basket for the whole country. Therefore, this basket actually consists of many goods, many services in the basket. Okay. And we also need to have a price that will value this commodity basket. And this price here, for example, it can be CPI, the Consumer Price Index. We understand Consumer Price Index is a price index summarizing over a varieties of goods and services that the countries consume. Okay. Now, the equality equation two is then called purchasing power parity. You can think of these equations right here. Now, I no longer refers to one commodity. I here refers to a commodity basket. Okay. You can, for example, if I write this one, I is equals to Malaysia, US. Ringgit for Malaysia, dollar for US. This is the price level for commodity basket in Malaysia. This is the commodity. This is the price for the commodity basket in US, right? Okay. So overall, this equation, this price ratio, will become um, the general price, the ratio of general price in the two countries, which is measures the purchasing power between the two currency, Malaysian ringgit and US dollars. Okay. An increase in purchasing power is associated with currency appreciation. Is that true? Let's look at these equations again. Okay. Uh, if I refer to this point, an increase in purchasing power, that means your money strengthened against foreign currency. Let's say Malaysian ringgit. When the purchasing powers of ringgit increases, that means Malaysian ringgit strengthened against US dollars, right? And that is called currency appreciation, as you understand before. Um, for example, let me refer to these ratios again. In what situations that the purchasing power of ringgit Malaysians will increase? That is the questions that you got to ask in the first place. Can anyone tell me whether the price in Malaysia decreases or increases, that will generate a higher purchasing powers to Malaysian ringgit? Can anyone tell? The price increases or decreases. My question is very simple. I'm asking whether the price in Malaysia increases or decreases in order to make purchasing powers of Malaysian ringgit stronger. Okay, according to Fahiza and Diana, The answer is decrease. Okay, the answer is decrease. Okay, thank you for the response. Right, I just write here the price decreases. That will make Malaysian ringgit stronger. A stronger Malaysian ringgit means currency appreciation or depreciation. Okay, I guess someone mentions, Amy mentions appreciation. Correct. Appreciation. Appreciation means the exchange rate decreases. Okay. When the price in this ratio, Malaysian price in this ratio decreases, the whole ratio, assuming the price level in the US doesn't change, the whole ratio will become smaller or bigger. These ratios. Do you think this ratio will become smaller or bigger? The price ratio here, smaller. Thank you. Okay. The whole price ratio here will become smaller. That also mean right here. Okay. It also mean the exchange rate between Malaysian ringgit and US dollar, this one decreases. This decrease in the value, for example, 4.15 to 4.09. This is appreciation or depreciation. Appreciations. Thank you again. Yep, this is appreciation, right? Now you understand, you should understand now how inflation or deflation in a country can cause the exchange rate to change, right? Now, I believe you can answer partly how inflation in Malaysia in the past couple of years is associated with um, currency depreciation in the United States. I mean, with the United States. Yeah. Okay. For example, as exchange rate decreases, I mean, changes from 4.15 to 4.0, this is a decrease. Okay. This is a decrease. Decrease. This means currency appreciation of Malaysian ringgit against US dollars, meaning Malaysian ringgit becomes stronger against US dollar. Yeah. And that also means an increase in Malaysian ringgit purchasing power. Why? Why that means an increase in Malaysians purchasing power? If you look at what I demonstrate here, when there is a decrease in the exchange rate, this also reflects the right side here, the price ratio. Malaysian price decreases. Okay. Or you can also observe inflation in US. Either inflation in US or deflation in Malaysia or both. Then you observe um, exchange rate appreciation. Okay. And we understand when price in Malaysia decreases, that means the money value of Malaysian ringgit becomes stronger. In other words, the strength of your money become stronger to buy goods and services. Yeah. Right. Um, an increase in price will cause the RM dollar exchange rate to increase, vice versa. Okay, this is some things that we have just explained using the equations right here. Um, PPP does not always imply the low one price. PPP implies the general price level. Yep. Although that the purchasing power parity, the purchasing power parity is based on the law of one price, but it doesn't always imply the law of one price, meaning that the law of one price is the foundations of purchasing power parity. But sometimes we have to understand that the law of one price applies to individual commodity. Okay, um, But PPP is based on commodity basket. So we have the general price level. For the low of one price, we look at the specific price of individual commodities. Right? Okay, next one. The two concepts that you need to recognize here, absolute and relative PPP. PPP here, purchasing power parity. The absolute PPP is what you see before. This is PPP, absolute PPP, yeah, RM, and this is US dollar, okay? This is nominal. I mean, this is the absolute PPP that we learned from the previous equation, this one, okay? Alternatively, we have relative PPP. The relative PPP look at the percentage change in the exchange rate, like the current exchange rate minus the previous exchange rate divided by the previous exchange rate. T minus 1, it can be any period. For example, if T is equals to 2009, for example. So T minus 1 is, we can look at this as annual information, annual data, for example. T minus 1 will be equals to 2008. Okay. Therefore, this equation means the exchange rate in 2009 minus the um, exchange rate in 2008 divided by the exchange rate in 2008 is equals to the difference in inflation rate between the two countries. The pi here, if you look at this point, the pi means inflation rate per country in the equation. Inflation rate is calculated from CPI, Consumer Price Index. Consumer Price Index is also the price level, the general price level in the country. Okay. For example, let me show you here inflation. CPI T minus CPI T minus 1 divided by CPI T minus 1. This is inflation rate. The growth rate of CPI is the inflation rate. Okay. Percentage change in exchange rate is equals to the difference of inflation rate between the two countries. If you look at the formula right here, the formula right here, this one, okay? If you just calculate percentage change in the exchange rate here, you also calculate the percentage change in this price ratio, and eventually you will get the inflation rate in Malaysia and US respectively. Okay. See what else should I explain here? Difference. Okay. In what situations that we use the relative PPP compared to absolute PPP? Well, because PPP is based on commodity basket. I mean, is representative basket of commodity. If we are comparing the basket in US and the United States, we may say that the basket in US contains of different products compared to the basket in Malaysia because the two countries produce different things. Okay, I mean, not everything produced in US is produced in Malaysia and vice versa. Therefore, there is possibility that the basket in Malaysia is different from the basket in US with different goods and services. So in this situation, there is an argument that the relative PPP is more suitable compared to absolute PPP. This one is absolute PPP. okay, which assumes that the two countries has the same basket of commodities if we use absolute PPP. If we want to be even more precise in our understanding, that we believe that the two countries have different basket of commodities, then we can use relative PPP. Yeah, relative PPP. But for understanding PPP and its relations to price level and interest rate, like this lecture, it's okay to apply the absolute one because the absolute PPP seems to be much more convenient and easier to be applied. I don't say absolute PPP is wrong. It's simply that if we compare to relative PPP, there is a possibility that the relative PPP can produce a more accurate um, image, a more accurate message about the differences in price level between the two countries. Okay. Mm, Here, long run exchange rate and PPP. From this slide on, our analysis will become more and more complicated, and you will be given several other equations. Okay. Before, you got to pay attention and try to understand as much as possible. Otherwise, you will have barriers to understand even more. Long run exchange rate and PPP. When I say long run, there is the implications of flexibility. Remember, short run and long runs, the two major periods in economic studies. Short run is usually associated with something fixed, something we cannot change. Okay? Long run is usually a period that we have everything flexible, everything variable, everything changeable, just like in forex, in foreign exchange. When we say long run, we means that the price and the exchange rate can change from time to time in order to maintain PPP. Whenever the PPP is violated, okay, the purchasing power parity is violated, exchange rate is allowed to change immediately, followed by the price, or vice versa, in order to restore the PPP again. Here's, we cannot escape the considerations of monetary approach. Monetary approach is something that you should have learned from macroeconomics. Okay? Monetary economics, or in macroeconomics, when we talk about monetary approach, usually we need to link it to the exchange rate, the money supply, and the money demand. And factors that are not relevant to money supplies and demand not have no role in this theory. Okay? Remember, our focus here is money supply and money demand because money supply and money demand will change the price level in a country, and the change in the price level in the country can change our purchasing power. When our purchasing power changes, that reflected in the up or down in the price level. And you learn from the PPP equation that when prices changes, that will influence the currency value, meaning the exchange rate with the US. Okay. Um, what I'm trying to tell you here is very simple, actually. Applying the PPP equation, okay, this is US dollar. This is the price in Malaysian ringgit and the price in um, US dollar. Okay, this is a PPP, and we know this is an exchange rate equals to the price ratio. Now here's, I don't have to put I over here because if we assume commodity basket, then we don't have to put I, that's fine. is optional. Okay, this I is optional. When we don't put I, automatically you know that this is the general price level representing the commodity basket between the two countries. Okay. Now, just now I mentioned monetary approach. We cannot escape the discussions of exchange rate, money supply, and demand. Because money supply and demand can determine the price in each country. Money supply and demand in Malaysia will change the price level in Malaysia. Money supply and demand in US will also change the price in US. When the price changes right here, we know the exchange rate will need to adjust. But the possibility for these exchange rates to adjust is long run. Long run here means a lot of flexibility. Okay, all every inputs are flexible, are variable, no fixed inputs. That allows the exchange rate to um, adjust smoothly compared to in the short run. I don't say that in the short run exchange rate does not move. It still moves, but not as flexible as in the long run. Okay. Um, right. Let's move to look at this equation. Look at these equations again. This is what I wrote to you. Um, Based on the long run assumptions, the monetary approach, money supply and demand, the flexibility of foreign exchange market can maintain PPP by adjusting the exchange rate. See, our goal here is to maintain PPP to make sure that the purchasing powers between Malaysia and US are the same. But for this to happen, we require the flexibility of Forex. For these flexibilities to be optimized, we need a long run. Okay? Long run allows the maximum flexibility for the foreign exchange markets to adjust in order to maintain PPP. Next thing we're gonna learn here is how this can happen. Okay. Again, I don't use I in these equations again because in the previous equations, like question 2, I have I right here because as I said, putting I is optional. You can put I or not, or you don't put I. If I don't put I, the message is very straightforward. It means these are the price level. PRM is the price level in Malaysia, general price level in Malaysia. P dollar is the general price level in the US. Okay, if I don't put I. Even if you put I, it doesn't matter a lot. It is not wrong, but it is optional whether you want to put it or not. If you want to put I, then you need to put some indication what I is in your equation here. Okay. Um, Now this one is interesting because based on the monetary approach, we want to understand how money supply and demand can affect the price level in Malaysia and in the US. Finally, we want to know how this can affect the exchange rate. For example, let's talk about interest rate. Interest rate, interest rate is the returns of deposit. When the central bank of a country make a policy to increase or reduce interest rate, we want to know how this policy can affect the exchange rate. Isn't it interesting? This is a very sophisticated question, meaning if the policy requires an increase in interest rate, we want to know right here the impact on exchange rate right here. Okay, this is a very sophisticated question. someone from the banks or financial institutions may be interested to ask. Can you answer this question? These lectures will tell you the relationship here, okay? How an increase in interest rate will affect exchange rate based on our understanding with purchasing power parity. Let's see here. If you look at these equations, the price in Malaysia is equal to the to the ratios of money supply to money demand. Okay, let me just write here once again. This is P R M equals to money supply over money demand. This is a more simplified ways to look at this ratio. Money supply is determined by the central bank of a country. In Malaysia, the central bank, what is the central banks in Malaysia, by the way? In Malay name, can anyone mention? That's the name of Bank Negara. Yeah, Bank Negara is the central banks in Malaysia. What about US? What is the name of central bank in US? Anyone can mention? Federal. I mean, thank you so much. Federal is the name. A more precise name is Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is the name of central bank in the United States. Okay, right. Money supply is determined by the central bank. Okay, but money demand is determined by the population, by you and me. What is the determinants of money demand? Or if you look at this side here, money demand is a functions of R and Y. R here is, if you look at the indication below, R is interest rate and Y is real GDP. Okay, real GDP is Y, R is interest rate. These are the two determinants of money demand in economy. Hence, if we say interest rate increases, we need to know how will this affect money demand. Once we know the effects on money demand, then we know how the local price level will change. Once we know the local price will change, then we can answer the question, the impact on exchange rate, because exchange rate is equals to this exchange rate between US and Malaysian ringgit is equals to this. Okay. This is the things we can use to the tool that we can use to answer the questions above here. But first of all, we need to know how the price will be affected by the change in money demand and how the money demand is changed by the change in interest rate. From interest rate to money demand, from money demands to the price, from the price to the price ratio here. From the price ratio here, we know how it impact the exchange rate. Then we can answer the question. Okay, 1, and then this is 2, and then this is 3, and then this is 4. And then we can answer the question, number 5. Right? This happens in Malaysia. In the US, the domestic price, we price the same ways to understand, okay, how money supply and demand can affect the price level in the United States. And of course, the money demand in the United States is also determined by interest rate and income. Although I don't put the functions here, right here, okay, US dollar and GDP in US dollar. I don't put here. But you should understand this is similar to equation 5. Okay, let's consider case by case now. We will consider how increase in interest rate will affect the price level, how increase in Y, the real GDP, can affect the price level. And of course, we also need to understand if the central bank pursue a monetary expansion policy by increasing money supply in the economy, what will happen to the price level, right? Um, let's look at this one by one. Money supply. On this next slide, it shows, for example, an increase in money supply, the increase in Malaysian ringgit. What will happen in this ratio? The ratio here, okay, just let me write here, this price in Malaysian ringgit equals to money supply over money demand. Now, when Malaysia's money supply increases, the ratio here become higher, right? And then we can look at the impacts on the exchange rate. Impacts on the exchange rate right here. Okay. Exchange rate, Malaysian ringgit to US dollar equals to the price level RM to price level dollar. Okay, so the increase in money supply causes the price levels to increase. This one increase also. Okay. Under the PPP, this will lead to exchange rate to increase. Let's check if this correct or not. Now, from here, we know this increases. Overall, the ratio become higher. The exchange rate increases. So this one correct. An increase in exchange rate here means Malaysian ringgit weaken, meaning become less powerful compared to US dollars. That is exchange rate depreciation right here. Okay. This is the first case. The second case, interest rate. Interest rate, as we understand, money demand is a function of interest rate and income. When interest rate changes, like an increase in interest rate, that will cause the money demands to change. But whether it will reduce money demand or increase money demand is something maybe you don't know. Because higher interest rate will be an attraction for people to deposit monies into the bank account because they want to earn more interest return. That will reduce money demand to buy goods and services. When people demand money, meaning, for example, if they withdraw money from the bank account to buy this or that, that is the process of money demand. Okay, if people put the money into the bank account, that is not money demand. That is actually reducing money demand because you don't use your money to buy goods and services. When interest rate increases, that becomes an attraction for people to deposit money, not to spend the money. Okay. The consequences, we understand an increase in interest rate will lead to a decrease in, okay, a money demand decreases. Let's see. Gonna money demand decreases like this one. What happens to this ratio? The ratio become higher or smaller right here. Anyone? When money demand decreases, money supply doesn't change. What happens to this ratio? Higher, increases. Okay, increases. That means the domestic price level increases. Okay, um, the increase in domestic price right here, that means this ratio also increases, and the exchange rate increases, and this basically means depreciation. Before the answers to this question, just now I asked these questions right here. What happens when interest rate increases? What is the impacts on exchange rate? From this discussion, number two, you should understand an increase in interest rate can cause exchange rate to increase or depreciate, just like what I explained above here, because it lowers the real money demand and subsequently increase the price. Exactly what I just depict here in this equation, right? This is case number two. Case number three. Let me erase some of this thing here. Last case. The increase in real GDP or real income. Yeah. An increase in Y, real GDP or real income, can cause exchange rate to decrease or appreciate under PPP because it raises real money demand and subsequently reduce the price. Let's see how this happens. Money, number two, the second variable here in this money demand function. Y is one of the determinants of money demand. When our income increases, or our meanings, the real GDP here, actually our income. When our income increases, we usually spend more of our income compared to before our income increases. When we spend more of our income, that means our money demand increases. Okay. In other words, the terms how to explain this one? Money demand. Sometimes we feel confused because what does it mean by money demand? Where do we demand money actually, right? The the easiest way for you to understand money demand is when we use our monies to buy goods and services. We need money, right? When we need money, in other words, we demand money. That is the definitions of money demand. Okay, let's say initially your income, maybe your salary, your wages per month is, let's say, 1,000, right? 1,000, and you spend 10%. How much do you spend here? How much is this? 100. Thank you, Diana. This is 100, right? And now you have a higher income. Your income increases. Let's say increase to 3,000. With 10% of spending, like this one, how much do you spend? Is it 300? Sorry, this is wrongly wrote this one as 100. Okay. Yep. It will become 300. Now, previously, your income is 1,000. You demand 100 ringgit in order to spend on goods and services. But once your income increases to 3,000, with the same allocations of spending, like 10% of your income, your demand for money increases to 300. You demand the money from your own saving in order to buy goods and services. That is money demand. And money demand has a positive relationship with your income. The higher the income, the more money you spend. That is the nature of the relationship. Okay. So in this case, when Y increases, money demand also increases, right? From this understanding, we can use these equations again. Money demand increases when income increases. This ratio will become smaller. Is that right? Will become smaller or bigger? Yes, okay. Thank you, Diana. The value here will become smaller, meaning the price decreases. The price here decreases. And when the price in this ratio decreases, the overall ratio also decreases. The exchange rate decreases. The decrease in the exchange rate means appreciation right here. Okay, this is appreciation when the exchange rate decreases. Now you can ask yourself the questions again. If interest rate changes or if real income changes, how will that affect the exchange rate in the country? We can use this analysis like this one using this equation and also the PPP equation to analyze, to tell your answer whether that will positively or negatively impact the exchange rate. Okay. Okay. What about if money supply goes on and that lead to inflation? What is the consequence? The consequence is we need interest rate to adjust. Meaning, if inflation increases, okay, let me write here. If inflation in the countries increases 5%, then interest rate will need to increase 5% also in order to offset the impact of this inflation. Because interest rate is the money we earn by depositing our money. Inflation rate is the impact that will reduce our purchasing power. The increase in 5% inflation rate that reduce our purchasing power should be compensated by a higher interest rate in the bank account. In recent cases, like since last year, I believe, have you noticed that the Central Bank of Malaysia, it decided to raise the interest rate, I believe from 1 point, for fixed deposit from 1.5 to 1.7 to 1.95 until now it's 2.45% for overnight interest rate. That is the situation because we are experiencing inflation. So the step taken by the central bank is to raise the interest rate in order to offset the impact of inflation that reduce our purchasing power. Okay, um, let's see. We will look at this formula. How does the ongoing inflation affect long-run interest rate? The general answer has been told you. This is the answer. Interest rate should be increased. Okay, that means the higher the inflation rate, the higher the interest rate is needed, according to this theory. But you cannot also continuously increase interest rate because that is not the ultimate solution. If inflation goes on and on over time, we should look for a measure to stop inflation. We cannot continuously raise interest rate to to fight inflation, to compensate the effect of inflation. That is not the ultimate. Okay. Um, see here. Okay. So here we need to look at the interest rate parity condition. This is something we have looked at in the previous lecture, if we still remember, meaning that the interest rate return in Malaysia and US are the same given an exchange rate, that is interest rate parity condition. To understand how money supply will lead to ongoing inflation and how interest rate need to be adjusted, then we will need to integrate the concept of interest rate parity condition with PPP. Okay, we bring together these two concepts, PPP and interest rate parity. If you still remember, in the past lecture, we have this equation. This is the domestic interest rate return, and this is the foreign. For these two sides to be equal, we need to also add this exchange rate. This is an expected exchange rate. Expected exchange rate minus the actual exchange rate divided by the actual exchange rate. Okay, these two sides are equal. This is interest rate parity condition. And from our previous understanding, let me show you here, right here, this equation. Equation number 3. We define that for relative PPP, percentage change in the exchange rate is equals to the differences in inflation rate between the two countries. We apply this concept here with this equation, okay? Especially this side. That means this size is equals to here the difference in inflation rate between US and Malaysia. Okay, because we are using expectation, so this inflation rate are also expected inflation rate. From here, we can transform this equation, meaning that the rate in Malaysia minus the rate in US is equals to the differences in inflation rate between the two countries. This also means we can do expectations of the inflation rate by using data on actual interest rate. Okay. Remember this equation, equations number 8, because later we will need to reuse this one with a more complicated questions. This is something you need to remember now. The differences between interest rate in Malaysia and US is equals to the difference in inflation rate between the two countries. This also means if inflation increases 5% in Malaysia, then interest rate in Malaysia should also increase 5%. That is the compensations needed, meaning the increase in 5% interest rate is needed in order to compensate the 5% increase in inflation rate, because inflation can reduce our purchasing power. We need to compensate it by increase in interest rate. Okay, this is some very important equations, and this equation is introduced by one person called Fisher. Fisher is an economist. He introduced this equation, so we call it Fisher effect. Okay, specific name, Fisher effect. Meaning, if inflation increases by 10%, then interest rate must be increased 10%. This is Fisher effect, the cause and effect. Yeah, the cause is inflation, and the effect is interest rate. Okay, right here. So this is basically what I explained to you already using this equation. And I said this is Fisher effect. And here's, I wrote here, this is Fisher effect, equation 8. And the example I give you just now is if inflation increases 5%, then interest rate must also increase 5% in order to match or to compensate um, the decreased purchasing powers due to the 5% increase in inflation rate. Okay, right. Let's see. Okay, I think I better just directly show you the graph here to give you further um, explanations of the Fisher effect. Okay. Now, first of all, we are considering money supply increases in the first place. Now, if you want to do some expectations about interest rate or inflation rate in the future, you want to make investment in a country, maybe in Malaysia, for example, and you want to know where the exchange rate, price level, interest rate will increase or decrease, because those are important things that you need to take into account before you make your decisions to invest or not to invest in Malaysia, right? And sometimes you need to do some research, a research about policy that Malaysia is likely to use. For example, central banks of Malaysia. When you got to know central bank announced a new policy that next year the central bank will pursue monetary expansion. The monetary aspect will be like um, to promote more money supply. Central banks promote an increase in money supply, and hence the loan from other commercial bank will all increases, and that will increase the money supply in Malaysia. That is an announcement of new policy next year by the Central Bank of Malaysia. Now you want to know what will this policy impact, expect your exchange rate and interest rate and also price. Okay, with this policy understood. Based on this analysis in this diagram, you can understand from this policy the impacts on interest rate. Diagram B right here. This is interest rate, and then the impacts on price level, and finally the impact on exchange rate. Okay, there are four aspects here. Money supply increases initially, let's say from time zeros to t. This is the normal supply rate in a country where the inflation rate is about this level, which is pi. If the central bank want to boost the money supply in the country, these countries the supply curve of these countries will become steeper. The money supply curve will become much steeper like this one. Okay. Um, right. This is an increase in money supply, but the problem is the inflation rate is also increases a lot right here. Okay. This is the summation term, the change in inflation rate. You can consider this one as 5% increase in inflation rate. As I said, according to the Fisher's effect, interest rate must also increase 5% in order to compensate the impact from inflation. As you can see here, the interest rate has a jump, okay, has a jump 5% higher, 5% higher in order to compensate the impact of inflation. And then we also understand from our understanding of money demand and money supply, money demand is equals to the price level in Malaysia divided by the price level in money supply. I wrongly put this one. money demand is here. It's a functions of interest rate and income. Yep. And the price is the ratio of money supply to money demand. There are two consequences here. One is money supply increases. Second, money demand decreases. Altogether, this ratio will become exaggerated, meaning this is a boost of increase in the price, right? The price level increases as shown by the jump in the price level, and then become a steeper slope. This is the general price level, the impact. From here, we understand that the exchange rate is equals to the price ratio between the two countries. Right here. Now, Malaysian experience inflation, assuming US price doesn't change. So altogether, this ratio become higher. Okay, exchange rate increases. As you can see here, the exchange rate increases. Not only that, but the slope become steeper. This indicate that continuously money supply can cause inflation in the domestic market, and also in the international market, the Malaysia ringgit become weakened, meaning depreciate against US dollars. Okay, this is depreciation. It's depreciation, right? Okay. Now this is already 12:30, but this lecture is quite important, so I will take a little bit more time to explain to you. But I also try to skip some slide if possible, is in order to shorten the time of this lecture topic. For this slide, I'm not gonna explain. These are some limitations of the PPP theory. You can read this one at home, but I'm not gonna explain this one here in order to save time for other important explanation. The next concept that we need to explain here is the real exchange rate. Okay, the real exchange rate. Remember, the exchange rate that we learned until now, for example, like here, Malaysian ringgit to US dollar, is equals to the price level like this. This is actually a normal exchange rate. Okay, a normal exchange rate is measured as relative price of two currency between two countries. But real exchange rate is different. Real exchange rates, it depends on the number of goods and services that we can buy using the monies that we have. That is called real, because money is money. Money is based on money value, but real means the number of goods and services that we can buy with the money. That is real, because goods and services are something real. Money is paper, is money value. It's not something um, real like goods and services. Okay, let's see. Let these two price also as a price in Malaysia and US. We assume these prices are based on typically weekly unchanging commodity basket. The price level in Malaysia is weighted on the commodity price produced and consumed in Malaysia. Our purpose here is to study um, the equation for real exchange rate. The real exchange rate. We understand this is the exchange rate that is based on PPP. Okay. For the real exchange rate, this is the formula, which is if you look at these equations again, sorry, I have to write this one many times because just to remind you, this is the exchange rate. What we're gonna do here is we can simply rearrange this term. For example, um, the exchange rate, which is times USD, price in USD, and then divided by the price in RM. This is our real exchange rate. We use Q, small letter Q's to denote real exchange rate. Okay, just like this equation. Um, these are just some examples that you can read. I'm not gonna explain this one also because it's not that difficult to understand this equation, right? You can also consider this problem, this quite simple question. What if normal exchange rate increases? So you just consider in this formula, if this nominal exchange rate increases or decreases, what will happen to the real exchange rate? Okay, you can think about this. Now, the exchange rate equilibrium, based on what we exposed just now, the real exchange rate here, now we want to determine the equilibrium of this real exchange rate. Yeah. Okay. Relative demand and supply curve are needed in order to explain the exchange rate equilibrium. But some things we need to pay attention here is a positive slope demand curve. The relative demand curve is positive. Usually in demand and supply, we usually have a downward sloping demand curve. This is the law of demand. But in this situation, our demand curve is just upward sloping. It's upward sloping like this. Okay. But we need to understand why this is upward sloping, a positive slope. This is one, the demand curve is one, things we want to understand. The next thing is the supply, the relative supply curve. We assume relative supply curve is perfectly inelastic, meaning, never mind, we done this, you want just directly put here, is perfectly inelastic, vertical. The reason is production is determined by production efficiency. Hence, the supply is vertical, is perfectly inelastic, unless there is a production efficiency, there is an improvement to the production efficiency, then this vertical line can shift either to the left or right. Just like this one. Okay, you see this. The relative demand curve is positively sloping. The reason is when, for example, this point, from point A to point 1 to point A, this is a movement along the demand curve from 1 to A. This also means an increase in relative demand for Malaysian good to US good. Why is real output? Why RM will be real output in Malaysia? Why dollars will be the real output in US? Okay. A movement from 1 to A indicate an increase in the demand for relative real output in Malaysia relative to US. Okay, but this movement also depicts one more information, which is increase in the real exchange rate to US to a higher level. An increase in exchange rate here actually means depreciation, just like the nominal exchange rate. The highest the value, the highest, I mean, the more ringgit Malaysians that you need in order to buy $1. This is depreciation. Depreciations here also mean Malaysian product become cheaper for people from the US to purchase. And hence, if our exchange rate depreciate like this one, US dollar becomes stronger against Malaysian ringgit. people from the US will be able to buy more output from Malaysia. That also explain why the demand for output in Malaysia relative to US increases like this, because it becomes cheaper when the real exchange rate depreciate against US dollar. Yeah. But another thing is that we want to look at is the shift in either of this curve. Um, let's the first one maybe we can consider as, an increase in the world's demand. Let's say this one, an increase in the world demand for Malaysian goods relative to the US causes excessive demand at the previous real exchange rate. This pushes Malaysian price levels relative to US price levels to increase in order to restore the equilibrium. This leads to um, ringgit appreciation. Okay, with the Malaysian price relative to increase in order to restore. Okay, right from here, um, we can see this. When there is an increase in the world demand for Malaysian good, the supply curve, it's the relative demand curve shift to the right side. And what happens is, it is a movement from point 1 to point 2. Okay, now why this happened? You can look back to the formulas for the real exchange rate right here. This is the nominal exchange rate times the price of US dollar divided by the price of in Malaysian ringgit. We need to use this equation in order to understand why the real exchange rate will decrease when the demand curve shift to the right side at point 2 right here. Okay. Now, what happens is when demand increases at this previous exchange rate, when people increase the demand for Malaysian goods, that will push the local price to increase like this. When demand increases, um, usually that will push the local price to increase. Just show you one quick example here. Usually our demand curve is downward sloping. Okay, that means the demand supply curve. When demand increases, that means the demand curve shift to the right side right here. Okay, you don't compare this demand curve with the one on this slide, the blue line. No, because the demand curve here measures the relationship between the real exchange rate and the real output. And what I plot here is the demand curve for output. The price is here and the quantity is here, right? When demand curve shift to the right side, when the world demand for Malaysian goods increases, that will increase the local price. Malaysians, I mean, the price in Malaysian's ringgit increases, okay? And consequently, what happens is this term will become smaller. This term will become smaller, okay? And consequently, the real exchange rate becomes smaller. As you see here, the real exchange rate decreases. This is appreciation. This movement is appreciation, okay? You can also read the explanation here. Malaysian's price relative to US price to increase in order to restore the equilibrium, because this increase in price level will cause the Malaysian's ringgit to appreciate against US dollar, and that will reduce when currency appreciations happens. That will reduce the US demand for Malaysian good, because when the real exchange rate appreciate against US dollar, Malaysian's good will become more and more expensive over time until they reach point 2, where there's no more incentive for people to demand to increase the demand for Malaysian good. Meaning, the shift in the demand curve is completed at RDC1 here. Okay. Another situation is when um, the relative supply curve shift to the right side. This usually happens because of production efficiency. When production efficiency increases, that will allow suppliers to supply more, to produce more, and usually represented by the shift in the supply curve to the right side. This also comes from policies such as a nation's policy, development policy, or industrialization policy, just like what you learned before. We have an import substituting policy and export orientation or export oriented policy. This, for example, export oriented policy will make the governments more willing to subsidize local industries in order to increase output. The increase in the supply here will shift the supply curve to the right side. What happens is you see the relative demand curve crosses the new relative supply curve at point 3 right here. Okay. Now what will happens? If you look at the explanation here, an increase in the production efficiency in Malaysia can boost relative supply. This is the shift in the supply curve to the right side. Consequently, this can lead to excessive supply at the previous real exchange rate. Let's see what happened. We draw demand and supply curve again. Okay, this is a P, this is Q. This is demand curve, and this is supply curve. Supply in domestic market increases, so the supply curve will shift to the right side. What happens is the price decreases in the domestic market. Now we can reuse what we learned from our previous explanations here. Okay, just now I use a wrong slide to draw the graph. Sorry about that. Should have used this slide. Nice. Okay. Okay, really quickly. This is demand supply. Supply curve shift to the right side. And what happens is the price decreases. Okay, the price decreases based on our equations here, our real exchange rate equations here. What happened is the price decreases here, decreases. Okay, so the term here, the overall term here, will become a bigger value. And the exchange rate here, real exchange rate increases and increase here. Okay, so this part is called depreciation. Okay, right here. There's pressures to lower some Malaysian price level. As I explained to you just now, the price decreases right here. This leads to Malaysian's ringgit depreciation. This is the explanation. The increase in the real exchange rate here is the depreciations. Okay, this is how the shift in the relative supply and demand curve will lead to appreciations or depreciations of Malaysian's ringgit against US dollar. I have a few more slides, just maybe three or four more slides. Okay, please bear with me. Here's we want to understand interest rate gap. Again, interest rate in Malaysian's ringgit and interest rate in US dollar. This is interest rate gap. If they are equal, that means we have interest rate parity. If we look at these equations, we understand from the left side right here, the left side, this is a percentage change in the real exchange rate. This term, the percentage change in real exchange rate, is equals to the nominal change in exchange rate. By the way, nominal and real exchange rate, they refers to the same thing, which is exchange rate. So if we don't look at this last part here, if we don't look at this last part here, real exchange rate, the percentage change in real exchange rate is equals to nominal exchange rate if the inflation rate between the two countries are the same. If the inflation rate between the two countries are not the same, then the real exchange rate, I mean, the percentage change should be equals to the percentage change in nominal exchange rate deducted or net out the differences in the inflation rate between the two countries, right? And from our understanding, previously we have equations 8, I believe. I still remember I asked you to pay attention to this equation, this one, okay? The differences in interest rate is equals to the differences in inflation rate. This is Fisher effect. And from what we see above here, I mean this one, the differences in interest rate is also equals to the percentage change in expected exchange rate, equation 7. Before coming back to this scenario, we just need to replace this term. Okay, we replace this term with the interest rate differences between the two countries. This is from equation 7. Okay, equation 7 previously. We defined this one. And for inflation and real exchange rate, we just need to rearrange them to get the right side here. Okay, to get the right side here, this one. And all in all, what we see from this equation is the difference or interest rate gap between the two countries is equals to the percentage change in real exchange rate plus the differences in inflation rate. Meaning, if the two countries have the same inflation rate, then this term will be equals to 0 if same, right? And in this situation, our interest rate differences between the two countries will be equals to the percentage change in real interest rate, right? That makes sense because real is a concept that we net out the price effect. If there's no price effect, that means we have only the real one, not the nominal one, right? And therefore, the real exchange rate can be written in this way, meaning um, the real exchange rate is equals to the nominal exchange rate net out the inflation rate. Meaning, if we want to find out the real purchasing power, the purchasing power of our money, how many goods and services that we want to we can purchase, then we need to take into considerations the price effect. The price effect is the inflation rate. R is nominal. This one is nominal. Okay, this is nominal interest rate. This one is real. And this one is the price effect. It's the price effect. If we use the nominal interest rate, net out the price effect, we get the real interest rate. Real interest rate will measure the real goods and services that we can purchase, okay, which is based on goods and services produced by an economy, right? That is something that is real. Why? Because only when we can buy goods and services that we can consume, then that is real because we can, goods and services is something we can improve our satisfaction, achieve our standard of living, right? Money If you don't use your money to buy goods and services, then you can't do anything to live. Money is for you to buy goods and services. That is real. Money itself cannot be considered as real because it is influenced by the price effect. When the price increases, the money value decreases. That is purchasing power. The purchasing power is real. The money itself is not real. Yeah. Um, Meanings. Okay, meaning an increase in expect. Okay, I have already explained this one. Lastly, real interest rate parity. Previously, we considered only interest rate parity. Now we have real interest rate parity. Okay, we understand how real interest is derived, which is we have to expect it here because by no means we can have uh, the real inflation rate, the actual inflation rate, because we also make expectations about inflation rate in order to derive the real exchange rate. Therefore, the real exchange rate is also expected one. If this is real exchange rate, sorry, real interest rate in Malaysia, this will be the real interest rate in the US. Due to this formula, okay, due to this formula, we can write the term like this. Just just the specification. It already tells you that equation 12 actually similar to equation 11. I mean this one. It is just that we look at the difference between two countries' interest rate and inflation rate. By rearranging this equation, we get this equation 13. Why can we get equation 13? This is because it means this term, the first term is the same actually. It's the same one. The first side, the left side is the same one. But the second side here is based on this one right here. See? Okay, the percentage change in real exchange rate can be can be rewritten in this way. Like this one. I don't know whether you see it or not, but it's very clear. Like this one, okay, is equals to this one. But this one is equals to this part. Same. Right here. Okay. Because the percentage change in nominal exchange rate is also equals to this one. Here. Okay. We have the big R right here, the big R, and the difference in expected inflation rate. So from here, you should be able to understand this is simply RRM minus um, the, the inflation rate here. Okay, like this. It's like what we have here. Similar. Yep. Just a rearrangement. We can get equation like this. Meaning difference in real exchange rate between real interest rate between the two countries is equals to the percentage change in real exchange rate. No more inflation in this equation because both sides are real. This side real. This side also real. There's no need for inflation to enter this equation anymore because both sides are real, are expressed in real terms. Okay, right. Let's do some revision to end this to close this lecture topic. If you know the answer, please answer together. Money demand is a function of there are two variables. interest rate and real GDP. Okay, right. Thank you, Amy. Real GDP and interest rate. When money supply increases, the exchange rate will increase or decrease. Money supply increases, exchange rate increase or decrease. Money supply. Okay, here we need to look at Faiza say increase. Let's see if this is increase. The price is the ratios of money supply to money demand. Okay, RM exchange rate is domestic price over foreign price. Here it say money supply increases. Here increases, right? So the whole term here increases. That means Malaysian's ringgit, the price, Malaysian price increases, exchange rate increases. The answer is the exchange rate, as Faiza and now Aimi also say, increases. Increases here means appreciation or depreciation. This one, appreciate or depreciate. Yes, this is some depreciation. Okay, right. Thank you. Number three, when the interest rate decreases, the exchange rate will increase or decrease. Faiza say decrease. Okay, this one, I trust you. Okay, I trust you. But you can prove this one using the analysis like I did here. You say decrease. Decrease means appreciation, right? When the income increases, the exchange rate will increase or decrease. Decrease also. Okay. Are you sure this is decrease? Okay. Right. All right. Okay. Everyone support decrease. So I just trust you. The real interest rate parity condition is the difference of expected real exchange rate equals to. This one is a bit longer for you to write because um, it is actually this equation. This equation, okay? So real interest rate parity condition is the difference of expected real interest rate equals to this one. The percentage change in real exchange rate. The answer is percentage change in real exchange rate. Okay, all right. I think that's all for today's lecture topic. I'm sorry to take a relatively long time for this one. Just to remind you one more time, your individual assignment will be available on the 29th this month. Before, please do the individual assignment and submit as soon as possible within the time given. Okay. If you have questions, you can ask. Otherwise, I will close this sessions right here. Any question? Okay. Then I say no question. Yep. All right. I believe no questions. Okay. Thank you so much for today's lecture and see you again next time. Thank you so much. Goodbye.